Hello viewers, and welcome again to Discovering Truth, and I am Pastor Forbes from the Gateway, Abiding Word Ministries here in the Gambia, and we are now in part 4 of our series, Ruth's Choices and Ruth's Decisions. And I know you know the journey, so I'm not going to spend more time going backwards, but where we left off was in the book of Ruth, chapter 2. This is a book in the Bible, in the Old Testament of the Bible, that is dedicated to this great woman whose decision-making processes, choices, and judgment calls earned her a place for eternity. A mention, not just a mention, but a book that has been put and canonized in the Bible. 4 chapters, but awesome story, the principles of proper decision-making and best practices. And so in chapter 1, we saw what happened, the tragedy her family had, and how she now made a decision to come back home without her 2 daughters-in-law. And after some persuasive words, one of the daughters-in-law, Orpah, decided to go home, and the other one, Ruth, followed Naomi. And Ruth followed Naomi because of the decisions and the choices she made based on what she felt was in store for her future, while Orpah made her own decisions based on what she felt was for her future. And the difference between these 2 women really is that what Naomi had said to them to go back, return to their mother's home, may God give them husbands, they should return to their religion and all that, it made sense. Why did it make sense? Because it was something Orpah could relate to. She had a home, her mother was there, probably her prospects to marry was there. Yes, she had married and the husband died, and unfortunately they didn't have a child, and maybe that turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because for some cultures and some people that becomes a problem. Well, she has a child and all that kind of thing. I don't want to be a stepdad, and some people have their hang-ups about things like that. So it made sense to go back to the known and be accepted. You don't have to tell any story. You just go back, maybe go to your last office and continue working, just even out of pity and passionate consideration. They'll give you a job because you left to marry, and then they were all at the wedding, and then your husband died. Now for Ruth was now going into the unknown. She had never been to Bethlehem, Judah. She had no clue what it was going to be like. She didn't know how her mother-in-law was going to be accepted, where they were going to stay, what her livelihood prospects are. But there was something deep in her that she knew that I must follow through with this. And this is the dividing line between Orpah and Ruth, to the point that in terms of God's divine purpose and planning for the Messiah's birth on the earth, for your redemption and my redemption, and the redemption possibility of the entire world, that the people that were going to be part of it and pivotal generationally in the ancestry until Mary, the Virgin, was breathed upon by the Spirit of God and Jesus was born, Ruth was going to be in that. It could have been Orpah. It could have been anybody else. It is choice and consequence. And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, it is choices and decisions and judgment calls we make from reason, rationality, logic, sense, and the voice of the majority. The way everybody is going, it has to be right if everybody is going that way. And we have learned that because things work don't necessarily mean they are right. And it happens in every sphere of life. Almost everything these days, people try to counterfeit it. Sometimes you even click onto a website and it just looks like your banking website. And thank God to this very good IT people in some website, when you go online and you click, they just tell you that this website is suspicious and they don't allow you to go through. In some countries, they even block it, and then you get a message on your app, or you get a phone call or an email address, and then they take you through verification steps to reset your security, because it's very easy to counterfeit these things. That's why we got to know the genuine from the counterfeit. How does God speak to me? Is it just the voice of popularity? Is it because many people are doing it? If you look at Orpah and Ruth, Orpah went to what was sensible, what was logical, what was known. She was not going home to struggle to explain anything. Maybe just one day they will receive her at home. Maybe some old boyfriend that was even eyeing her before these people came from Bethlehem, Judah, will say, look, I'm still here. I'm unmarried. I'm here for you. And so the possibilities and the chances of Orpah were greater than Ruth going into something she doesn't know, going into the land that brought 3 men into our country and they died. Why would you do such a thing? This woman whose husband and 2 sons died, are you sure, like we'll say in West African English, she a correct woman? Are you sure there's no fetishism and devilish things in her family? Why follow this kind of woman? You will soon die yourself. But she rose beyond that. She rose beyond traditional thinking. She rose beyond suspicion. She rose beyond those kinds of things because deep in her heart, she knew that there is something between this woman and me. There is something for me in this relationship. And it's not just money, because the money and the fun is over. She's a widow, I'm a younger widow. So when they came back home to Naomi's city, Bethlehem, Judah, at the time of the barley harvest. And as I said last week, I wanted to flesh this out a bit because sometimes when you've gone through hard times and God has seen your pain and your staying power regardless, He refreshes you, He restores you. So He brings them back in the time of the harvest. For Naomi to say that, look, it's not over. Those people that you thought were going to be emaciated, marasmic, dead, they're here. In fact, they are now looking better. They also are not turning their nose up at you that you went and you left us. I thought you went. Why have you stayed? We had your husband died. We had your sons died. If you had stayed here, your husband would have lived. We'll be celebrating his 70th birthday, your sons, and all that. That's all in the past. They came and they welcomed her. But beyond that, after the first night, Ruth wakes up the next morning and says to her mother-in-law, Mama, when we came, I saw those people walking. Let me go and join them walk. In other words, as I said last week, she had no entitlement mentality that they should serve me, love me, dote on me. After all, I am the widow of their son. No. She just went to join. She went to identify. And that speaks a lot about the character of a person who makes proper decisions, because that in itself lends you support, amiability, likability of the people, because you blend in, you join them. You're not aloof and you're not part of them. You just come in and synergize. And while she was doing that, ladies and gentlemen, the unseen hand of God was orchestrating and steering her. So let me share this picture with you in my mind's eye and journey with me. So she just goes and meets somebody. Please, can I help and walk here? So, oh yeah, the field is big. She doesn't know whose field it is. There are many, many fields. It's like let's say an 80-hectare farm. So you have yours, I have mine. 3 people have theirs. 2 siblings have theirs. 5 businessmen has. One has 10 hectares. You just don't know. And there are different workers, different staff, all working, doing the same thing. And they are cutting and they are tying and they are putting aside. And she's gleaning. That word gleaning means she's picking the extras, because that was part of God's Hebraic law, the law for the Hebrew people, that when you are harvesting your grains, leave some deliberately for 2 categories of people: the foreigner, the alien, and the poor, the disenfranchised. And so you can imagine Ruth making that decision, and we all get to hear this voice that says, where are you going to? You do not qualify, you are a foreigner. And Ruth will say, yes, but that their book says that even the poor. And right now I have no job, I qualify, and I'm going. Or the voice would have said that, look at you. What are you doing? You're a foreigner. Don't get involved with these people. And she would have answered the voice back, yes, I'm a foreigner. The book has a place for me. It says I can come and I can take part and use these gleanings so that I can start my life again. Because the principle was that the poor could pick off the deliberately left grains and start life again, so that their poverty was not supposed to be a permanent status in their life. They can start from 2 and make 4, and 4 and make 8, and 8, 16, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 1024, and just be going like that. And that was the principle. So she knew it. And besides, even if she didn't know it, I think every time we make these kinds of decisions, heaven looks at us. Heaven sees everything. Heaven knows everything. God rewards for faithfulness and labor, because there is dignity in labor. She could have given all kinds of excuses. She went to work. And so in our story, continue with me, she gleaned from the morning. Remember the testimony of the person in charge told Boaz, the owner of the part where she ended, when he asked, who is this woman? She must have said, sir, we've never seen this kind before. She came here early morning and asked, can she work? And since she bent her back down to work, she has been picking grain, putting them aside, tying in sheaves, picking. And the only time she lifted up her head was to drink a little bit of water, rest a bit, and she's walking. And that's why you find her walking. Why did Boaz recognize Ruth? I want to put 2 reasons. First, yes, she maybe looked different from everybody else, maybe by her dressing or not. But I think, and I would love to believe, that it was her attitude and her character. She stood out. Where people are drinking attire, she's walking. Where people are trying to watch West African movies and go on social media and TikTok and TokTik, she was walking. She was just walking. When she finished from this field, she said, any other place I can, let me go and join these people. Hello, my name is Ruth. I came here last night. Oh, welcome. She starts walking. She does not want to know their business. She's not joining any clique, any club. She doesn't want to know who died. And maybe they were prying eyes watching her. Look at her. She's walking. Small talk. And she kept on walking. She kept on walking. And it was like, we've never seen this kind before. Ladies and gentlemen, when we do that, there's a verse of the Bible that says that particular disposition and demeanor and gifting and motivation brings us before mighty people. It makes room, it creates room, it opens doors for us and brings us before mighty people. That's what the Bible says. And so she moved to the next field. She was just moving field by field. When she finishes what she's gleaning, oh, there's another place there. She moves. That's the way I picture it in my mind's eye. And God's hand is just moving her. Just keep going, dear. Keep going, darling. Just keep going, young man. Just keep going. And when she came to this particular field, I feel that God's hand arrested her there and kept her. At the same time, God now moved Boaz, wherever he was, to come into the field at that particular time. And when he comes, he finds her there. Boaz could have come at any other time and he wouldn't have noticed her because she must have been gleaning in other fields. But God orchestrated this together. And he came, he greeted his people, the Lord be with you. And they also said, the Lord be with you also. Peace, shalom, assalamu alaikum. He's just nice employer. But he was single. He hadn't married. And he had staff. I'm sure he had pretty women there. He could have made that decision. And anytime maybe he wanted to marry, there was just this check that told him, wait. Because marriage was not his problem. Chapter 2 verse 1 says, there was a relative of Naomi's husband, a man of great wealth. His money could have given him a wife easily. The ladies would even be doting and rushing upon him because who doesn't want to be Mrs. Boaz? Who doesn't want to be in control or in partnership control of this wealth? Who doesn't want to say we have 80 hectares, 200 hectares? Who doesn't like to see trucks of grain marked Boaz and Ruth, Boaz family, Boaz and Darling Incorporated, International, Intercontinental, Global? Who doesn't want to see that? But for some reason, God kept Boaz all these years and was preparing this Ruth. And so her hard work, so if they were gossiping about her, it didn't matter. If she was tired, it didn't matter. She didn't go to sit with the women and chit-chat, small talk, who married who got pregnant, who dished who last night, who went to the club. You know the small talk that people do, the Monday morning talk in the offices? Look at the page, look at the Facebook page, look at Instagram, look at TikTok, what they said. Look at the headlines. Boaz came, looked around and said, that's a strange person. Who is that person? And then the woman in charge said, sir, we've never seen this one. Sir, we walk. We've never seen this one. She has walked since the morning she came. She only rested. In verse 7, it says, she has continued from morning till now, though she rested just a little bit. My God. What makes people do that is conviction. What makes people do that is determination, is diligence. There's another woman in the Bible called Rebecca who made a decision like that by drawing water from the well for a man and his 10 camels. And God knows how many rounds she did from the well to the camels, from the well to the camels to the well, to water all the 10 camels and to give this man. And the man also had to ask her, whose daughter are you? Because this is strange. After 1 or 2, they get tired. They must check Facebook. After 3, they have to check their fingernails. And men have to watch sports, because people don't press in and push in. We get tired and we have all kinds of reasons. I call it excuseology. We have all kinds of excuses why we can't do it. Somebody else must do it for us. So this is the same thing that happened. It was just something. And ladies and gentlemen, it brings me to another verse of the Bible in the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 29. Find that verse in the Bible. Make it part of your mantra for your life, wherever you are. Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 29. It says, have you seen the person who is diligent in what he does or she does? That person will inevitably stand before kings and never before common ordinary people. Why? Because they are diligent, they pay careful attention, they dot the I's, they cross the T, the symmetry is there, the organization is there, the precision is there, the efficiency is there, the quality is there, the excellence is there. They have rehearsed everything to make it picture perfect, error-free, absolutely straight, first impression, absolutely great. People look for people like that. Call me that woman, because she doesn't do mediocre stuff. Call me that company. When they deliver on time. Excellent. They don't change the figures. They don't take bribes. They just do it. And for every such Ruth person, there is a Boaz. Because you see now why God will bring that kind of person into Boaz's life. Because she's not a gold digger. She's not going to drain his finances. He's not somebody who's just going to sponge on her and bleed her dry as a leech with an entitlement mentality or an African or non-African egoistic misogynist mentality. No. Neither is she also coming to boss him with a feminist mindset. No. Both extremes are bad and wrong. And sometimes there are signs of a past pain that people are trying to correct and see the opposite people as enemies because of the pain of one person. Which pain maybe sometimes you enabled yourself. You allowed it happen because it gave you oxygen. Ruth came and walked and walked and walked and walked and walked. This was not Ruth, the young girl. This is Ruth, the widow. Ruth, the foreigner. Ruth who has challenges now. Ruth who doesn't know what tomorrow brings, where tomorrow's meal is going to come from. Has no clue what the future. She just knows in her heart that this is a decision I must make. And ladies and gentlemen, Boaz happens to come at that time. We read in verse 3, and she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz. She did not happen. She was directed by God's Spirit. This is another verse in the Bible. I'm so excited this evening. There's another verse in the Bible in the book of Psalms. I'm not going to give you the verse, so you must look for it yourself. Psalms 37, look for the verse. It says, the steps of the good person, the steps of the righteous, they are ordered by God. So yes, you are taking the steps. I am taking the steps, but these steps are ordered. They are realigned. They are moved here, moved there by God, because you have committed yourself to God. You have delighted yourself in God. You have acknowledged God in all your ways. You've put God first. So God says, I'm not going to let you fail. I'm not going to let you fall. I'm going to speak in your heart and guide your steps. This is what happened. It says it happened that she came to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, to nobody else but Boaz. This Boaz who was not even yet married, with every opportunity before him. And Boaz noticed her and said, whose young woman is this? And she was told, this is the hardworking woman. And he sends for her. In verse 8, Boaz says to Ruth, listen, my daughter, will you not? Do not go and glean in any other field, and do not go from here. Stay close to my young maidens, and let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and go after them. I have spoken to my young men not to touch you. I will protect you. Wow, this is exciting. I will protect you. Her decision that would otherwise render her vulnerable now brings her into the protection of Boaz. And not only the protection, there is another P, it's called provision, because Boaz says to her, and when you are thirsty, just go to any of the vessels and drink. That is provision. So I have catered for your protection. I have catered for your provision because you made these right decisions. And she now fell on her face in typical Ruth humility and said, what is it I have done that I have found favor and security in your eyes? Why even take notice of me? Because I'm a foreigner. And I'm sure Boaz says, you have no idea. I also have no idea. But it just feels right. This is what has to happen. And ladies and gentlemen, permit me to say we're going to pick up from here. Next, it gets better and better. Maybe this will be another 7-part series. But please, before I end, remember, Abiding God Ministries, the Gateway, we have our 34th anniversary convention coming November 2nd through 6th. We invite you. It's going to be a great time. Always, it's free, Enjoy this 5 evenings with us, 6:30 every evening at the Gateway there. The theme for this year's convention is Impact for Kingdom Influence. And please join us and let's have a great time together. Until I come your way next week by the special grace of God, please, I pray that the Ruth attitude, the Ruth spirit will be in you and in me, that even though sense, decision, and options are placed before us, to go back, because the pull of the known is always better than the unknown, and it's more secured as it sounds. Let us follow the voice of God in our heart and become great forebears of great things that will happen. Have a good day. Have a good day.